having to do with doppelgangers. Are there such things as cloning labs? Well, there are claims that cloning labs are exposed. Half of the world leaders may be fake. One of them, as we know, has doppelgangers, is Putin, Vladimir Putin of Russia. Now, the past examples of Stalin of Russia, Montgomery, and even Saddam Hussein, conspiracies on this hot topic give and take, especially in recent years, with the results that people are quite confused as to what is really true and what is not. The replacements of institutional figures of the planet with puppets, actors, and those who even wear masks or perhaps holograms. And now we have, of course, AI. And many clones are at a peak in conspiracy information. But don't forget that where there's smoke, there could be fire. And after all, it has always been accepted by everyone that the great leaders of the world had several doubles, first of all, for security reasons. In this day and age, with many already imprisoned or done away with, replace them with others that look alike is a no-brainer. And whether we want to accept it or not, that's exactly what could be happening. Clones, actors, puppets who could be hiding in plain sight, holographic or CGI, or even AI, the illusions are so real that nowadays they become normal. And it's been reported that many public figures have been replaced by clones or replicas nowadays. According to some, these military courts have been operating in U.S. since the early 2019, authorized by President Trump's executive order, and matters such as treason and crimes against humanity fall under the military jurisdiction and allow for a speedy trial in extreme secrecy. Now, the types of clones used by the Illuminati, true clones, this is a person grown from test tubes, known as in vitro, or implanted into a womb, having genetic material identical to another person. Synthetic humans, these individuals look just like the real as a real person, although they're made of specific tissues extracted from cattle, for example. That's the first I've heard of this. Organic robotoids, this is artificial life created completely differently from clones or synthetics. Organic robotic technology is used to make as accurate replicas of important people as possible. That's hard to believe that robots could be so human-like. But anyway, lookalikes, an ongoing program to find lookalikes of famous people, as well as a program to create secret identical twins who are separated at birth and never see each other. The Gazetteler reports the U.S. military, under the watchful eye of various presidents, has revealed a covert operation so bold, so chilling, that it forces us to question the reality we live in. This is not just another news story, it's a glimpse into a hidden type of program, a battle against an invisible enemy that has infiltrated the highest echelons of world leaderships. And also claims of the Marines, those stalwart guardians of American freedom, brought to light the existence of the DS clone lab in the Ozark Caverns, the caves there, and this disclosure is not just a mere footnote in military intelligence reports. It's a testament to the relentless pursuit of the truth by the White Hoods, and the scattered laboratories once shrouded in secrecy are now systematically destroyed. Now, General Eric M. Smith's pledge, "We will do our best," it's not just a statement. It's a war cry against a threat that is undermining the very fabric of our society. Claims that eradicating these clones is just as critical as eradicating the real DS speaks volumes of seriousness of the situation. And the discovery of underground cloning labs in Antarctica, is claimed, is nothing short of a science fiction nightmare come true. Imagine, if you will, a facility hidden under a holographic illusion, housing 290 research centers dedicated to the most unholy of sciences, which is cloning. So imagine, for example, a young Hillary suspended in a cylinder is not just a grotesque mockery of nature, it's a symbol of the perversion of science by those who seek to control us. And also involving figures like Biden-Fauci, macabre tableau adds a layer of treachery to the already sinister plot. And the mission of special forces to destroy the deep state clone lab is not just a military operation, but a crusade for the soul of nations. The cloning crisis, as conveyed, reveals a disturbing reality. Having a device in Antarctica capable of producing cloned babies and replicas of celebrities is not just a threat to our national security, it's an attack on our collective identity. And the replacement of General Berger by General Smith marks a change in strategy, a new chapter in this illegal war. And conversations between various presidents and generals could shed light on the complexity of this crisis. Their acknowledgement of cloning issues, while understanding reveals a troubled aspect of modern geopolitics, the cloning of figures like Gretchen Whitmer raises questions about the extent of this infiltration. Now, transporting various faces like known people, important, famous, and in government, Fauci, Biden, whatever. You can understand what this means. Now, the revelation that 50% of the world's leaders may be clones is not just a shocking statistic, it's a wake-up call. These soulless biorobots, devoid of compassion and spirituality, represent a new form of tyranny. And noting that likes of some recent presidents and governors could be cloned is a chilling reminder of lengths to which these shadowy powers will go to maintain their power. Now, the characteristics of these clones, lack of spirituality, disturbing libido, and maniacal homicidal intent, paint a picture of beings devoid of humanity. Is this not just a scientific anomaly? It is an existential threat. So in conclusion, it's not just a story about cloning, it's a narrative about the struggle for our own humanity, the revelations that have come out of various countries and various high-ranking politicians are not just pieces of intelligence, but fragments of a larger, more ominous puzzle. And as we stand at crossroads of history, we ask ourselves, who are we really following, leading and trusting? And the answer to this question may just determine the fate of our civilization. So now that we've established that human cloning could be real, we can take a look at some of the more obvious clones and doubles. These people are just bystanders until the public wakes up enough to the full disclosure and declassification of their heinous crimes. Now, as we said, I believe that, of course, we all know, the original Putin is not the Putin that we see, okay? It's somebody else. Now, famous leaders who played an important role in history and had identical doubles, the British called them political decoys, quote unquote, and this amazing similarity of some people was exploited by many popular but also hated leaders to avoid unpleasant situations and to protect themselves from would-be assassins. Often many dictators and prime ministers had not just one but a group of decoys catered to their needs. Stalin's clone is still alive. He was an actor, a ballet dancer, a juggler, a psychic, and a striking resemblance to Joseph Stalin. He was called Felix Dadaev, and the austere dictator of the Soviet Union took advantage of his qualities. Dadaev fought on the battlefields of World War II and was wounded, and there in the hospital where he was recovering, Stalin's secret agent found him. He resembled the leader as if he were his twin brother. Dadaev was registered as dead in the hospital records. His grieving family was informed, and he himself became Stalin's shadow. The cruel leader personally supervised the training of his alter ego, and although they were 40 years apart in age, Dadaev bore a striking resemblance to Stalin. It's said that Dadaev traveled to Yalta for the famous conference, and it was he who contacted the journalists and not Stalin. In fact, Dadaev was welcomed at the airport by the people in charge of the conference. While Stalin was traveling on a secret flight, the same had happened in Tehran, Iran. Felix Dadaev revealed his role in 2008 after receiving written permission from the Russian government. And in his statement, Stalin's doppelganger claimed that the only difference between him and Stalin was their ears. He had smaller ears than the dictator. Dadaev, as he said, was so good in his role that even people in Stalin's entourage often could not tell them apart. The really stark difference between Dadaev and Stalin had to do with the timbre of their voices, but in the absence of widespread media coverage at the time, this went unnoticed. Dadaev kept his secret until he was 88 years old, fearing for his life. Stalin's ghost still haunts me, he said in 2008, when the dictator was in hell for 55 years. After the Dadaev revelation, it became known that in many of Stalin's appearances on the Kremlin balcony, press conferences, events or even conferences, Dadaev was present and not the cruel leader of the USSR. Felix Dadaev is 100 years old today. He was born in 2023. He is still trying to understand, is it Stalin who lives inside him, or Felix involved in the dead Gregorian tyrant? And as Stalin was not the only one who enjoyed the protection of a savior double, but does Monty have a twin brother? If you saw Field Marshal Bernard Montgomery side by side with Clifton James, you would think the winner of El Alamein was standing in front of a mirror. In 1944, when the Allies were planning the Normandy landings, they thought that in order to pull off this risky move, they had to deceive the Germans. It was then that someone spotted James, again an actor. He's an actor serving in the British Army, and his striking resemblance to Montgomery did not let him go unnoticed. Clifton James trained in the Marshal's mannerisms and movements. The hardest part was quitting smoking, as Montgomery was a staunch anti-smoker, donned the iconic beret and traveled to Gibraltar and Algeria, where he was watched by the Nazi agents while Muddy was planning D-Day. The Germans were now convinced that the landing would take place in southern France. After the war, Clifton starred in the 1958 film I Was Monty's Double. Clifton James died in 1963. Did they kill Saddam or his double? Saddam Hussein's use is not just one. He had a dozen doubles. So, a dozen, and was so well known after his tragic death. U.S. Defense Secretary Donald Rumsfeld is said to have requested a DNA test to confirm that it was the Iraqi dictator who died on the gallows. Saddam's minions were everywhere. The CIA even used a psychological profiling unit to determine whether or not they were tracking the right person. After all, Saddam Hussein probably died in 2006, and not some clone who looked like him. Others, such as Cuban leader Fidel Castro, fooled the CIA many times with his look-alike doubles. In fact, it had been revealed that at the time when Castro was recovering from cancer in 1980, one of his bodyguards performed his duties towards the mass media, but also kept Castro's image healthy abroad. And Panamanian dictator Manuel Noriega avoided bad encounters with his U.S. persecutors using his doubles. They didn't find a way out. They made a mask. And the different cases, Sukarno, the first president of Indonesia, had no life insurance, but the Pentagon made sure to build one for him, not to protect him, but to trap him. When it became known that Sukarno was having an affair with a Russian beauty, the CIA decided to make a personal adult video starring a Sukarno and a Russian partner to tarnish his public image. They made a mask of him. So when Langley's experts could not find a lookalike for the president, they made a mask like the one used in the Secret Mission movie. And an actress would wear the mask and flirt with a blonde with Slavic features. And so you can understand what was going on. Now, the mask was never used in the video, was never completed because plans to do away with him were put on the table, but these two did not materialize. Sukarno was overthrown by Suharto in 1966, and the organizers were left with just the raunchy tape in hand. Henry Kissinger had a life who certainly did not hit 100 like the original. In fact, he had a double. In fact, it said that he was the one who secretly visited China in 1971 and not the original U.S. Secretary of State, Henry Kissinger. So this is on Solask. Please leave your comments and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box below.